Hi, welcome. Enjoy the content, subscribe, and turn on notifications.
James woke up that Saturday feeling like the day was going to be productive. Sunlight streamed through the bedroom window, lighting up Rachel's face as she slept peacefully beside him. He smiled, kissed her forehead gently, and got up without making a sound. At 38, James was a man of routines. As a civil engineer at a mid-sized construction firm, he spent his weekdays buried in projects, meetings, and tight deadlines. Weekends were sacred for family. Rachel, his wife of 12 years, was an elementary school teacher. She was 36, with brown hair always pulled back in a practical bun, green eyes that lit up whenever Sophie, their 9-year-old daughter, told stories from school. Rachel was organized, punctual, predictable. James liked that. There were no unpleasant surprises, no drama. Just a stable life, brick by brick, like the buildings he designed. After coffee, while Rachel took Sophie to swimming lessons, James decided to wash her car. The silver SUV was dusty after a busy week of shuttling between school, work, and family errands. He filled a bucket with soapy water, grabbed the hose, and started with the windows. Water ran down the hood, washing away the accumulated grime. James liked tasks like this, simple, tangible, something he could start and finish in an hour. After cleaning the outside, he opened the doors to vacuum the inside. He wiped down the dashboard, cup holders, and doors with a damp cloth. When he got to the back seat, he grabbed the vacuum and started sucking up the cookie crumbs Sophie always left behind. That's when he saw it. Tucked strangely between the seat and the backrest was a small white button. Simple, plain, from a dress shirt. James turned off the vacuum and picked up the button. He turned it over in his hand, examining the tiny holes in the center, the smooth, circular surface. For a second, he thought it might be his. But no, he hadn't worn white shirts in months. He preferred blues and grays, colors that matched his ties better. Still, he went to the closet and checked. All his white shirts were there, hanging, complete, every button intact. He walked back to the garage, stared at the button in his palm, and felt something strange in his chest. It wasn't exactly pain. It was more like the air had grown thick, heavier. James slipped the button into the pocket of his shorts and finished cleaning the car, but his movements were mechanical now, lacking the earlier satisfaction. When Rachel came back with Sophie, he said nothing. Just smiled, asked how swimming went, listened as Sophie excitedly told them she'd swum all the way to the other end of the pool without stopping. Rachel beamed, proud of her daughter, and James felt ridiculous. A button. It was just a button. Maybe it belonged to a friend she'd given a ride to. Maybe a coworker she'd helped carry something heavy. Maybe it was his, and he'd just forgotten. But the doubt was planted. And doubts, James would learn, grow like weeds. In the days that followed, he started watching Rachel differently. It wasn't conscious at first, but soon it became impossible to ignore. When she said she was going to the grocery store, James found himself wondering, is that all she's doing? When she went to the gym 3 times a week, he wondered if she was really working out. Did a text message make her smile? Who was it? A coworker she mentioned in passing? Why did she talk about him so much? James started checking Rachel's phone. While she was in the shower, he'd pick up her device from the nightstand and scroll through her messages. Nothing. Conversations with friends about recipes, with coworkers about school meetings, with her mom about her dad's birthday. All perfectly normal. But James couldn't convince himself. Maybe she deleted the incriminating texts. Maybe she had a second phone. Maybe she used some secret app. Rachel started to notice. One night, while they were watching TV, she turned to him and asked, "James, are you okay? You seem distracted." He said he was fine, just tired from work. But Rachel didn't seem fully convinced. She frowned, studied his face for a few seconds, then turned her attention back to the screen. James's paranoia hit a new level the next week. He started following her. Not every day, but whenever he could leave work early, he'd tail her car. He kept a safe distance, 2 or 3 lanes back, watching where she went. Grocery store. Gym. A friend's house. All perfectly normal, but James couldn't stop. It was on a Wednesday that Rachel finally realized. She was pulling out of a gas station parking lot after filling up when she saw James's car 2 spots behind hers. He'd hidden behind a van, but not well enough. Rachel stopped her car, got out, and walked straight over to him. She tapped on his window with her knuckles, firm, demanding his attention. James rolled down the window, awkward, his face flushed with shame. Rachel crossed her arms, her green eyes locked on him. "You're following me, James? Seriously? What's going on with you?" He couldn't lie. He spilled it right there in the parking lot, the sound of cars passing around them. He told her about the button, the suspicions, how he couldn't stop thinking something was wrong. Rachel listened to everything, and when he finished, she laughed. Not a mocking laugh, but one of genuine relief. "James, honey, it's just a button. I took some of your clothes to the tailor 2 weeks ago, remember? One of your white shirts had a loose button, and she fixed it. That button must have fallen out of the back seat when I was bringing the clothes back. I didn't even notice." James felt a wave of relief so intense he almost laughed too. He hugged Rachel right there in the parking lot, apologizing over and over. She accepted it, but there was something in the way she smiled, a slight tension at the corners of her mouth, that he couldn't quite figure out. Maybe it was annoyance. Maybe it was disappointment that he doubted her. James tried to ignore it, but the feeling lingered like a wrong note you can't shake from your head. In the days that followed, he tried hard to trust again. To go back to normal. But something had changed. James didn't know exactly what, but the sense that something was off remained, latent, like a wound that hurts when you forget it's there. The next week, on a Saturday morning, James and Rachel went to the grocery store together. Sophie was at a friend's house, and they took the chance to do the weekly shopping without the chaos of a 9-year-old trying to cram candy into the cart. It was a quiet time, few people, wide, brightly lit aisles. Rachel was at the produce section, picking apples and checking the firmness of the pears, when James saw him. A tall man, dark hair neatly combed back, wearing the store's uniform with a name tag on his chest, manager. The man walked down the aisle with the confidence of someone who knew every inch of the place. Rachel looked at him, and James saw the change. It was subtle, but unmistakable. She tensed. Her shoulders lifted slightly, her breath seemed to catch for a second. The man looked at her too. And there was something in that glance, a silent exchange that lasted less than 2 seconds but said more than 1,000 words. Rachel quickly looked away, turning her attention back to the fruit. But her hands were trembling. James noticed. She grabbed an apple, put it in the plastic bag, but nearly dropped it. She tried to act normal, but the damage was done. James felt that sensation again. The air grew thick, the noise around him distant, muffled. He said nothing. Finished the shopping in silence, paid at the register, loaded the bags into the trunk. On the drive home, Rachel tried to make conversation, but James answered in monosyllables. She noticed, but didn't press. That night, after Rachel and Sophie were asleep, James stayed awake in the living room, the lamp casting long shadows on the walls. He pulled out his laptop, searched for private investigators in the area, and found one with good reviews. He sent an email explaining the situation. He needed answers. He needed to know if he was losing his mind, or if his instincts were right. The investigator replied the next day. Fees, timelines, guarantees of discretion. James accepted everything, transferred the upfront payment, and waited. 10 days of silent torture. 10 days where he acted normally, kissed Rachel in the morning, played with Sophie, worked, came home, had dinner, watched TV. But inside, he was falling apart. On the 10th day, the report arrived by email. An attached file, password protected. James waited until nightfall, locked himself in his office, and opened it. Photos. Many photos. Rachel entering a discreet motel 15 minutes from home. The manager entering right after. Rachel leaving 2 hours later, fixing her hair. The man leaving, adjusting his shirt. More photos. Rachel and the manager sitting close at a cafe, their hands almost touching on the table. Dates. Times. Tuesdays and Thursdays, always when she said she was at the gym. More details. The man's name, Kyle Turner, 33, manager at the market for 2 years, divorced 6 months ago. Clean record, no criminal history. Just an ordinary man having an affair with another ordinary man's wife. James read the report 3 times. The first time, he felt anger. The second, pain. The third, a cold, sharp clarity, like a scalpel. The white button wasn't his. It never was. It was Kyle's. It had come loose during one of their encounters in the back seat of Rachel's car, probably on an afternoon when they couldn't wait to get to the motel. The story about the tailor was a lie. Her relieved laugh at the gas station had been theater. Everything was a lie. James didn't sleep that night. In the morning, he went to work but couldn't focus. In the afternoon, he called a divorce lawyer. Made an appointment. The next day, he was in his office, laying it all out, showing the report. The lawyer listened, took notes, and said, "You've got a strong case. Adultery proven, irrefutable evidence. We can seek primary custody of Sophie, keep the house, and push for a favorable asset split." James nodded. He wanted all of it. Not out of revenge, but out of justice. He planned the confrontation carefully. Not at home. Not in private. Rachel didn't deserve that kindness. She deserved the truth laid bare in the cruelest way possible. The following Saturday, there was a family dinner at Rachel's parents' house. Everyone would be there, her siblings, in-laws, nieces and nephews. Sophie would be playing in the backyard with her cousins, shielded from the storm about to break. James arrived with Rachel, greeted everyone, smiled, chatted. Rachel's mom commented on how thin he looked. He said it was stress from work. Rachel held his hand, supportive, the perfect wife. After dinner, when everyone was in the living room sipping coffee, James stood up. He tapped his spoon lightly against his cup, drawing attention. Everyone turned to him. "Sorry to interrupt, but I need to share something important with you." Rachel looked at him, confused. Her father, seated in his armchair, frowned. James pulled the envelope from his coat pocket, opened it, and began placing the photos on the coffee table, one by one. Rachel entering the motel. Kyle entering right after. Rachel and Kyle at the cafe. Rachel and Kyle leaving the motel, adjusting their clothes. The silence was absolute. No one moved. Rachel's mother covered her mouth, eyes wide. Her father looked at the photos, then at his daughter, his face flushed with restrained rage. Her siblings froze, unsure how to react. Rachel tried to speak. "James, I can explain," but her voice came out weak, trembling. She picked up one of the photos, looked at it, and tears began to fall. "It's not what it looks like. It's not what it looks like." James repeated, his voice unnervingly calm. "Rachel, I hired a private investigator. I have dates, times. Tuesdays and Thursdays, always when you said you were at the gym. Kyle Turner, market manager. Divorced. That button you said was mine? It was his. It fell out of your car during one of your meetings. Rachel cried harder now, head down, shoulders shaking. Her mother tried to move toward her, but her father held her arm. "Let her be," he said, voice hard. "She did this to herself." Rachel tried to defend herself. She said she didn't even understand why she'd been there, that something inside her had changed without warning. Her voice thick with tears, she tried to minimize the weight of her own choice. "It was just a weakness, a confusion in my head. I felt empty, lost, and he showed up at the wrong time. I swear it doesn't mean anything to me." As she spoke, she searched James's eyes for some sign that he'd believe this desperate attempt to turn a grave mistake into a passing slip-up. But James stayed still. Silent. As if each word she spoke was just another knife, slowly driving into his chest. Sophie looked at her mother, confused. "Mommy isn't coming?" "No, not today," James replied, his voice gentle. And they left. The divorce was quick. James's lawyer worked with brutal efficiency. With proof of adultery, Rachel had little room to negotiate. James got primary custody of Sophie, kept the house, and Rachel was ordered to pay child support. She tried to argue, but the judge was clear: proven adultery weighed heavily against her. Kyle was fired from the market. His wife, whom he'd hidden from Rachel during months of the affair, found out when James anonymously sent her a copy of the investigator's report. The woman made a scene at the store, screamed, threw products on the floor. The store owner had no choice. Kyle was gone by week's end. Rachel tried to reach out to James several times. Messages, calls, even showed up at the house once. James never replied. He blocked her number, instructed Sophie to speak with her mother only during scheduled visitation times set by the court, and moved on. 9 months later, James was in the school parking lot, waiting for Sophie to finish her art class, when he saw Rachel. She was thin, too thin. Deep dark circles, hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She wore a loose sweatshirt and worn-out sneakers. She spotted James, hesitated, then walked over. "Hi," she said, voice hoarse. "Hi," James replied, neutral. "How are you?" "Good." "And Sophie?" "Happy." Rachel swallowed hard, eyes red. "James, I'm so sorry. I ruined everything." "I know that." James looked at her, really looked, and felt nothing. No anger. No sadness. No pity. Just emptiness. "I know you're sorry," he said. "But it doesn't change anything." Sophie came out of school then, backpack on her shoulders, smiling. When she saw her mother, she waved timidly. Rachel waved back, trying to smile. James took Sophie's hand, put her backpack in the back seat, and opened the door for her. "Bye, Rachel," he said, not looking back. "Bye," she whispered, but he was already getting into the car. James drove home, Sophie chattering excitedly about the drawing she'd made in class. He listened to every word, smiling, present. When they got home, he made her favorite snack, helped with her homework, and that night, after she was asleep, he sat on the living room sofa and looked around. The house was tidy, clean, full of photos of Sophie smiling. There was peace there. It wasn't the life he'd planned, but it was a good life. An honest one. And for the first time in months, James slept peacefully. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any updates. See you next time.